Well, hello everyone, and welcome into an episode of Matt's Sports Talk. And it's hard to believe it's Saturday and it's warm outside. Temperatures are upper 70s, lower 80s, but of course, big changes are on the way tomorrow with a major cold front coming through, heavy rain, a lot of wind, maybe even some isolated severe thunderstorms. But crazy Ohio weather, that's for sure, as we're approaching the end of October. And now I wanted to record a video. Now, if you've been with me on my channel, you know that I primarily stick to basketball, men's and women's Crossroads League basketball, which I still plan on doing that this upcoming season, which starting next month once Crossroads League play starts. I definitely plan on continuing to do these videos with daily game recaps for both the men and the women. So super excited about that. And make sure that you stay tuned for that as well. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do so and subscribe. I truly appreciate those of you that have subscribed to my channel. And again, I really appreciate all the support. And my goal is to get up to 500 subscribers by February 21st of 2026. So if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do so, and let's get that subscriber count number rising. But now, if you've been with me over the last month or so, you'll know that I've recorded some videos when there's been massive volleyball upsets in the Crossroads League, and that's why I wanted to record this video, which typically I don't record videos on Saturday, but we have had two massive upsets in the Crossroads League, and not even the last 24 hours. So, man, let's dive in. Now, before we do that, I also want to mention that not only have we seen two massive upsets in the Crossroads League, and not even in the last 24 hours, we also had an even more of a massive upset last night as Corbin out of Oregon upset number one. I believe Corbin's out of Oregon. They upset number one Eastern Oregon that had won over 20 straight games. So number one in the country went down last night in a 4-set thriller, which is just absolutely crazy. And it's not just the Crossroads League this year that is so competitive. It is multiple conferences. The Cascade Conference is extremely tough this year, and not just in the Crossroads League, but the Cascade and lots of other conferences as well. In fact, earlier in the week on the women's side of soccer, we had Southeastern out of Florida in the Sun Conference that was ranked, I believe, 20, or is ranked 20th, 21st, somewhere in there, upset number one Kaiser. The number one team in the country, and the Fire of Southeastern upset them on Wednesday night, which was literally just a few hours after the updated top 25 polls came out. So, man, it has been a crazy week of upsets in all kinds of sports, not just volleyball, but soccer as well. So now diving into the first massive upset that we had in Crossroads League women's volleyball last night, receiving votes, Marion upset number 12 Mount Vernon Nazarene 3-2. And in the first set, it looked like it was all Mount Vernon, got out to an 18-10 lead, was able to hang on 25-21. Marion took the second set 26-24, dominated the third set, and then dominated Mount Vernon won the third set, and then Marion just dominated after that. And for Mount Vernon, this was their second game and not even a week that they blew a 2-1 set lead and lost in a 5-set thriller. So obviously, and for Mount Vernon, they actually didn't play bad last night. I mean, you look at what they hit overall. They hit overall 199 last night compared to 204 for Marion. So it was, in terms of hitting percentage, it was pretty even. Now, the difference being is a lot of the errors. Now, Marion had 24 total attack errors, and Mount Vernon had 29. Now, for contrast, when Mount Vernon swept Huntington 3-0 on Wednesday night, Mount Vernon only had 10 total attack errors. They had 29 last night against Marion, and a week ago at Taylor, Mount Vernon had, I believe it was also 28 or 29 attack errors then as well. So obviously, the attack errors really hurt Mount Vernon, and you look at the service errors. Mount Vernon had 17 service errors last night compared to only 10 for Marion, and that was the major difference in the game last night. Mount Vernon just had a horrible night in terms of errors, and it doesn't really get any easier for them, as they host number 5 Indiana Wesleyan coming out of Mount Vernon's fall break this upcoming Wednesday night. So, man, that should be a really, really good game, though. I mean, Mount Vernon gave Iowa a run the first time this year out in Marion, Indiana, and so I have no doubt it's going to be another thriller this time around. Now, looking at some key players last night for Marion, you had Chloe Cook, one of Marion's best players, 15 kills on the night for her. Corey Dryden, 15 kills for her. Man, she was just flat out hammering the ball down on the court pretty much anywhere that she was able to land the ball on. And Nicole Wilkinson had 11 kills as well last night for the Knights. So obviously head coach Ryan Bowerman had to be really, really happy with that performance, considering that the first time these two teams met, it was Mount Vernon coming out on top in a 5-set thriller, 3-2, and Marion returning the favor this time. And then looking at Mount Vernon had some double-digit players, or had some players in double digits with kills as well. Libby Evanshine, 16 kills on the night for her, 11 kills for Faith Maloney. And coming off the bench, Lila Nicholas had 7 kills, and she came in to replace an injured Morgan Schlabach, who had ice on her knee. So obviously we hope and pray that she gets healthy soon. And man, it would just be absolutely, it would really hurt Mount Vernon if Schlabach is out for the rest of the year. We obviously hope and pray that's not the case, but again, our thoughts and prayers definitely are with her, getting back fully healthy. And then you look at the other big player for Mount Vernon, Evelyn Brown, who has been a phenomenal freshman this year. She arguably is probably, in my personal opinion, she's among the top 3 best players in the whole entire league in terms of kills this year, and that's only as a freshman. So obviously, having her around for the next 4 years is really, really going to be a blessing to head coach Kendra Mosier and the Lady Cougars. And for Brown, she comes from Canal Winchester, Ohio, John Bloom Carroll High School, and that's had some amazing players come out of that high school. And so having Evelyn Brown a part of a Lady Cougar offense has just been absolutely, absolutely amazing. And obviously, she came in as a replacement for Lizzie Snauffer when Snauffer graduated, and so a lot of people said, man, Mount Vernon probably is, at least I said Mount Vernon probably would not be this good, once again, because Mount Vernon the last 2 years, had been the number 2 seed, had won no less than 13 conference games, and then with Lizzie Snauffer, and then she graduates. I'm like, okay, well, they might not be quite as good this year. And boy, Evelyn Brown, she has really stepped up into a big key leadership role. So obviously, I hope that she continues to keep building that momentum. And then, so that was your matchup there last night. Now looking at the second major upset of the weekend, and it happened just a little bit ago, within the last hour, and Huntington, receiving votes, Huntington stunning number 20 Taylor 3-0. Now for the Trojans, this is back-to-back games where they have been shut out by their unranked opponents. Now, of course, Huntington receiving votes. Great. Of course, Taylor lost to Grace on Wednesday night. Grace unranked, Huntington receiving votes. So this is kind of, I guess some could argue maybe really bad back-to-back losses for Taylor. At least I personally would say that. And Taylor as a team today, they hit just 104. They hit just .067 at Grace Wednesday night. So this is obviously an unfamiliar territory that Taylor has been in. We have not seen them struggle this much all year long. And obviously, this is the final key stretch of the regular season. There's only 5 more conference games remaining. And this is something that, of course, head coach Erin Luthi and her team just, I'm sure, do not want to see. Now, at least one one bright spot for Taylor today was their best player, Ellie Fry, coming away with 12 kills despite a tough upset loss. And now for Fry, she only had, I believe, 7 kills in their game at Grace this past Wednesday night. So obviously great to see Ellie Fry do a little bit better, and she is just an unbelievable star player for the Trojans, and I'm glad she was able to at least lead them, into getting more of an offensive rhythm. Now in the first set, it was flat out all Huntington, 25-16. Taylor fought back in the second set, 25-20, and fought back in the third, 25-19 as well. So now you compare Huntington, you compare Taylor's 104 hitting percentage. Huntington hit 261 today as a team, and in their loss Wednesday night against number 12 Mount Vernon, Huntington hit just .007 in that game on Wednesday night, and to come back 3 days later and upset Taylor and hit 261 as a team, that is absolutely amazing for head coach Kelsey Herber and company. And you look at a team like Huntington, this is the second top 25 ranked opponent that they have swept 3-0 this year, the first being Marion 3-0 last month, and then this time a month later it's Taylor that they sweep 3-0. And now the first time these two teams met, it was 3-1 in favor of Taylor back in Upland, Indiana. So obviously now in that game, Huntington probably more than likely should have won that game. They really struggled closing out late sets, but this time they made sure that they did not do that and came away with a massive upset win against number 20 Taylor. And then other games that went final today, Goshen and St. Francis, it's Goshen at St. Francis. They play in just a little while, so not really a key game to watch there, although St. Francis is trying to get their first conference win of the season. And now looking at them, St. Francis has lost 18 straight games. They are 0-12 in league play, 4-20 overall, and they're trying to avoid an 18-game losing streak here in just a little bit. Grace was at Spring Arbor earlier today, and Spring Arbor was able to win that game 3-1. And Spring Arbor goes to 6-7 in the conference. Same with Grace, also at 6-7. And I will get to I'm going to talk about the tiebreakers a little bit more in just a second. And then other key games earlier today: Indiana Wesleyan, a 3-0 sweep up at Bethel. Really no surprise there. The first set, though, was pretty close, 25-21 in favor of IWU. And then the second and the third set, IWU just flat out dominated. And you look at the hitting percentage in each set. Now, in the first set, Bethel hit just El Zippo. They had 8 errors in that set alone. IWU hit only 200 in the first set and had 6 errors. But you look at the second set, Bethel hit just .032, had 6 kills. IWU in the second set hit .406 and only had 3 errors. And then in the third and final set, Bethel hit just .054, 6 errors. IWU hit a blistering 500 in the third set and only had 2 errors. So obviously a huge bounce back for the Lady Wildcats as they were down 2-0 early against St. Francis this past Wednesday night and were able to come back and win in a 5-set thriller, 3-2. And IWU really struggled in the first 2 sets on Wednesday in terms of attack errors. And then 3 days later up at Bethel, IWU was able to recover from that and play a lot better. And looking at Bethel as a team, Bethel hit just .030 today. And as a team, IWU hit a blistering 370. So, boy, what a difference that makes. And looking real quick at some key stats for Bethel, their best player, the only one in double figures, Ainsley Tack with 10 kills, and nobody else had more than 5 kills. So obviously that pretty much tells you all you need to know. And then for the Wildcats, you had Shay Williams with 10 kills, as well as Ava Geroldsma. So those were the leading kill leaders today. And that for the Wildcats, Marissa Mullins with 9 kills, Marin Sanchez with 8, Jessica Ikes with 3, Avery Caskey with 2, and Abigail Porter with 3 kills as well and 8 digs. Katie Nodder, 14 digs for the Wildcats. So great to see those players step up as well. So that is a look at that match up there. And then you look at the updated Crossroads League standings, at least with all the games that have gone final. You have Indiana Wesleyan ranked 5th in the country, still undefeated in conference, 13-0, 19-3 overall. They have won 16 straight games. They have a a non-conference game coming up Monday night against Oakland City, the Oakland City Mighty Oaks. And then their next conference game will be at Mount Vernon Nazarene on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. I plan on being there. It's going to be a great, great game, and really is going to be, arguably, is going to be the game of the week by far. And then Mount Vernon Nazarene, the 2 seed at 9-4, Indiana Wesleyan, the 1 seed at 13-0. One more win by the Wildcats, or one more loss by Mount Vernon and Huntington would officially clinch the number 1 seed for the Lady Wildcats for the 3rd straight year. And for the 3rd straight year, they are looking to run the table in conference play. And also looking real quick, before I mention the rest of the standings, in terms of the coaching records right now, head coach Candace Moats in her 23rd year at Iowa, 722 and 219 overall after today's win against Bethel, and she is 296 and 43 in conference play as a head coach of the Lady Wildcats. So truly amazing to see that kind of success from a top-notch premier program, not just in the Crossroads League, not just in the NAIA, but also across the whole entire country, combining all the other conferences. Indiana Wesleyan truly one of the best top premier teams in the whole entire country, no question about that. And then looking at the rest of the standings, Huntington 9-4 as well in conference play with their major upset over Taylor earlier today. Huntington 21-5 on the year, so they pretty much have punched their ticket to the NAIA national tournament. At least I personally think so, depending on how the rest of the season goes. Obviously, there's no guarantee because there could be a lot of upsets in other conferences, so nothing set in stone. But I would say that Huntington is looking really good to be in a national tournament, and I think in the next poll they should crack the top 25 if I had to guess, which definitely would help them get into a national tournament because every team that's ranked inside the top 25 definitely should be locked into the tournament. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then you have Mount Vernon, Nazarene, Huntington tied for the 2 seed at 9-4. Mount Vernon, though, holding that tiebreaker because of the head-to-head. Mount Vernon swept Huntington this year, beat them Wednesday night, swept them Wednesday night at Huntington, beat them at home last month. So Mount Vernon holding that head-to-head tiebreaker. And then you have a 2-game lead now. You have a 2-game lead for both Mount Vernon and Huntington for that number 2 and 3 spot. Then you get down to 4th and 5th. Marion and Taylor now tied at 7-6 in conference, 15-7 overall for Marion, 16-9 overall for Taylor. Taylor's lost 2 straight games. Taylor now on the verge of probably being on the bubble for the national tournament. And Marion would be that number 4 seed. Marion holds the head-to-head tiebreaker right now over the Trojans. The Trojans and Lady Knights have to play each other next Saturday. So that should be a really, really interesting game, and one for sure that could solidify that number 4 spot. And then you have Grace, the 6 seed. Actually, you have a 3-way tie now for the 6, 7, and 8 seed. Grace at 6-7, 13-12 overall. Bethel now at 6-7 with their loss to Iowa today, 14-12 overall. And Spring Arbor's win over Grace. Spring Arbor also 6-7 in the conference, 19-7 overall. And then, of course, Goshen 1-11 in conference play, 6-19 overall. And then St. Francis, I alluded to them earlier, 0-12 in conference, 4-20 overall. Those two teams playing each other here in just a little bit. For Goshen, they're looking to sweep the Lady Cougars of St. Francis. And meanwhile, for St. Francis is trying to get their first conference win. They've lost 18 straight games. So obviously, those two teams now, at least for St. Francis, 6 games out of a playoff spot with 5 to play. So St. Francis officially eliminated from playoff contention with Spring Arbor's win today. So St. Francis just trying to play with a little bit of momentum heading into the offseason. For the Maple Leafs, they trail Spring Arbor by 5 games. And I believe Goshen's also eliminated from the playoff race. I'm going to double check that. You had Spring Arbor beat Goshen 3. They swept Goshen 3-0 earlier this week. The first meeting, they swept Goshen. So, yeah. So, Goshen and St. Francis now have been eliminated, both been eliminated from conference play in terms of the Crossroads League tournament because Spring Arbor would be up by 5 games right now. But, Goshen, though, if Goshen wins, they would be at 2. So they would be 4 back with 5 to play. So I guess Goshen, so to speak, has not been officially eliminated, but they pretty much are on the bubble. And for St. Francis, they officially have been eliminated because they are 6 games back. And if they win, they would be 5 games back with 5 to play. But Spring Arbor, though, would hold that tiebreaker head to head. And for St. Francis, they actually they got to play Spring Arbor again. So I mean, I guess Goshen and St. Francis officially have not been totally eliminated as of yet, but they both are definitely on the bubble. They both would need to run the table and have Spring Arbor lose out. So I stand corrected. Those 2 teams have not been eliminated, but definitely on the bubble. That is for sure, and they cannot afford to have any more losses. They both would need to win. Basically, one of the 2, Goshen or St. Francis, would have to win out and have Spring Arbor lose out. More so probably for Goshen. But if St. Francis loses today, that would officially eliminate them. Goshen. So basically, whoever loses today between Goshen and St. Francis, especially if it's St. Francis, that would eliminate them officially. If it's Goshen that loses today, then they both practically would be eliminated. But they are both mathematically still alive. So I'll put it that way. Definitely wanted to clarify that, clear that up. They both have not been officially eliminated. But yeah, that's how that scenario would play out for those 2 teams. And then looking very, very quickly at some other, well, depending on my internet connection works, I definitely want to try and get and pull up some other scores very quickly for you. And of course, Iowa's still up 1-0 in men's soccer. That's got 17 minutes to go. And Spring Arbor Marion, they just ended the first half, and Grace is up 3-0 over Goshen in men's soccer. That game's got 20 minutes left. Number 3, Bethel's up 1-0 over Huntington with 11 minutes left. So those games are not final. And are there any more women's soccer games final? I know, Grace beat Goshen 3-0. No surprise there. Huntington's beating Bethel 2-0. So it looks like the Lady Foresters in women's soccer are going to pick up their second league win. They're actually pick up their second league win in a row. They scored 3 late goals against Goshen Wednesday night. And so they will actually be in a tie for that number 8 spot. I believe that number 8 spot. And then Spring Arbor at Marion, 2 ranked teams. They will play on Monday night at 6 p.m. due to some bad weather that's on the way tonight. Mount Vernon at Taylor. That game will start at 5. And Indiana Wesleyan, number 6 in the country, a 6-0 win over St. Francis earlier this afternoon. No surprise there. So that is a look at the updated scores. Again, men's soccer not totally final, at least not yet. Of course, Taylor at Mount Vernon Nazarene on the men's soccer side. That game won't start until 7. And then looking at the women's soccer side of things, Iowa 12-1-1 now overall, 6-0-1 in conference. Grace now 5-2 in conference play, 12-2-2 overall. And then, of course, Spring Arbor and Marion, they play Monday. Taylor plays here in a little bit against Mount Vernon. Bethel on the verge of falling to 3-4 in conference after starting out 3-1, and they would remain at 9 points. Huntington would go to 2-5 in conference play and be tied for Mount Vernon for that number 7 spot. St. Francis would fall down into that number 8 spot at 1-6 now, with 3 points still on the board for them after losing to Iowa today. And of course, soccer goes by points. So there's only 3 more. Actually, there's only 2 more games left in. I believe only 2 games left in women's soccer after today. I'm gonna double check on that. No, there's 3. Yeah, there's 2 left after today, as soccer will have their bye week coming up this week, and then the last 2 games next Saturday. So yeah, only 2 games left in soccer. So obviously I'm gonna be keeping an eye on all of these games here on the soccer side, I should say. So again, I hope this video was super helpful to you, and if you did enjoy this video, please either like, comment, or subscribe. Any one of those options helps me out greatly, and I truly appreciate any feedback that you provide me. So thanks so much for tuning into this video. Have a blessed rest of your day, and God bless.